to share my screen to see if actually it works, okay? Does it work?
Yes.
Yes,
it works.
It does.
excellent. So let me see if William is here. William, how Professor Wei. We do have one absentee today. Alpha could not make it because he's under weather. So all other people, maybe put in chat if you're here. My dear panelists, if you're here, just put it, say I'm here, then I will know that you are actually here. I saw Peter. Peter is here. Peter's here, William's here, Beatrice is here, fantastic. Jean, Deng Ping, Jean and Deng Ping.
Jean, yeah, I'm here.
Oh, Jean's here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, now I see it, yeah.
Yeah.
What about Deng Ping? Is Deng Ping here? So if Deng Ping is here, then we have full house here.
So how do you have, do I need to, I think, do I need to write an email to Deng Ping and?
Yeah, let me see if I can actually call him.
Okay.
We have 4 minutes to go.
Perfect, thank you. So in terms of sequence, Professor Deng Ping will be the first speaker, and then Peter Lee, Professor Peter Lee. And
I say Peter last one because he's has a really nice case studies.
Okay.
Conclude with nice case studies, great.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, Peter first, second Beatrice, and
Jingqi and then Peter.
yeah,
right?
and
Okay.
yeah. So we go with
Yeah. If
Peter,
if Peter,
Beatrice,
yeah,
and Deng. Peter. Oh no, sorry. Deng Ping should be first.
My question is, if Deng Ping is late, then we let Patricia.
Then we have Beatrice go first.
Okay.
I am calling him. Hi, Beatrice. Nice to see you again. Nice meeting all of you. Jing Chief first time. Yeah,
Hi.
Thank you for making time. I know you're in China, right?
No,
No, you're in London.
UK. Yeah,
London's evening. Okay.
Yeah, it's
So
evening.
not as bad as it would be China. Yeah.
No. Yeah, I just put my my kids to bed.
Okay. Are you coming now? Waiting for you. The problem with online, sometimes you get time mixed up because a lot of time zones you have to deal with. People say, I'm not, this is this, and then they didn't get the time right. So I did send him a note. I'll send an email again here. Oh, we have 2 minutes to go.
Dr. Young, that's a beautiful slide that's showing.
Yeah, is that, you like it, huh?
Yeah, that came out very well.
Yeah. We are waiting. Hey, I'm going to tell you, so far I have been trying to catch it as much as I can. Beautiful. Everything is so wonderful. I learned so much.
Thank you. It's been wonderful, and
congratulations. Yeah, this is wonderful.
But now we're looking forward to to this great plenary. So
Yeah, well, I sort of, so switch a little bit, but let's see how we can actually play into the wonderful conversations which have been going on this morning, which really, I must say, very few places have explored the intersection between Chinese outbound FDI and the DEI, issues, or
Exactly.
maybe can we call it the DEI movement?
Sure.
I would like to call it DEI movement. It
Have
is
at it.
actually, in a sense. So we will probably go with, and Deng Ping can come at the end, okay? So Beatrice, I think you will be natural person to go first, and then we will have Jingzhou and then Peter. So let me know, organizers, chairs, anytime you're ready to start, we will.
Hi,
start.
XIAOHUA. I don't know whether you can hear me or not. Just now you say I will be first,
ready.
right?
Deng Ping is here, right?
Yes.
Okay,
Deng Ping
perfect.
here now?
Yeah. Okay,
Oh,
that's
yeah. We were worried that you you might forget the time.
No, last night, yesterday I already sent the PowerPoint slides to William.
yeah, I received it. Yeah.
I
Okay.
know you were, I know you it's all on your
Just simply too
calendar.
busy.
Excellent. So you go first.
Okay.
So let me then, chairs, let me know. You give me signal when I can start.
Okay.
Richard, if you're ready, we're ready.
Sure. Yep. And it's recording, so you're all set.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I want to, first of all, I really want to congratulate the organizers. My colleague, Dr. Richard Johnson III, and his team for organizing this, this monumental conference. And as far as I know, this is one of the very first on DEI, movement. And this, the speakers are phenomenal, and the issues are so relevant and so timely. My hearty congratulations to you and your team for organizing this wonderful conference and showcasing, our own university as well, University of San Francisco. So I'm very proud to be part of it. So I also want to thank, Dr. Richard Johnson III and his team for his vision to invite us to be included, in this conference. And they say that, they really have the vision of see the intersection between DEI movement and Chinese outbound FDI in the global economy, particularly during this very multi-crisis era. So my co-organizer and moderator, Professor William Wei, and I were just very proud, and as well as our speakers, so proud to be part of this conference. So let me, we will bring Professor Wei shortly. Let me just start off with a couple of comments here. Today, we're facing a world full of volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity, or we call it the VUCA. And brought about by changes in geopolitical environment, pandemic crisis, war in Ukraine, climate change, and the increasing threat of global recession. However, as you will see, Chinese outbound investment has been an interesting, hold on, let me just get rid of this so I can, okay. So let me bring things into perspective. Why these two, can go together? Why the organizers see the relevance between, Chinese outward FDI and the DEI conference, Social Equity Leadership Conference. And as you can see that Chinese, before pandemic, Chinese outbound, FDI is being increasing, year by year. It has become a affordable, informable force in the global economy. However, you also see the dip, since Donald Trump took the office. And then the dip goes actually all the way down because he started the trade war. And then, of course, if you look at, during pandemic, Chinese investment actually overall still remain quite strong. And, look at the year 2019 versus 2020, right? It's quite strong. And you will see that even though there is a decline, but they're still, playing a big role. And so particularly we want to actually today want to featuring, Chinese outbound FDI in Africa. And we do have our experts from, from different parts of the world and also from Africa. So the question that is, given what we know about Chinese FDI in the global economy, that what implications does Chinese FDI, have for the global community? And as we say, DEI issues is about engagement, right? Engagement, global community engagement. Does it actually create more social equity and benefit the host country economies? Does it benefit, or accelerate VOCA I just mentioned earlier? And so our distinguished panelists will explore those issues further, and they will provide unique perspectives based on their in-depth studies, and given the audience some glimpses into the reality of Chinese, outbound FDI in the global economy. It is my great, pleasure actually to introduce Dr. William Wei, Professor of International Business and former Dean at MacEwan University Business School. And William himself is one of the leading scholars studying Chinese outbound investment around the world. So I will hand it over to him, and he's going to introduce the panelists and moderate the discussion. And I may join in later. So thank you, William. Take away from me.
Thank you, Professor XIAOHUA Yang, and thanks for the wonderful presentation and background information for this preliminary panel. And we have 4 distinguished panelists, and each of them in different jurisdictions. We have people coming from the States, in North America here. We have people based in Europe, in the UK, and also from Africa and from China itself. I want to first welcome them. And we have 4 presentations today, and 2 on a more macro level on the merger acquisition, one on merger acquisition in the turbulent times of Chinese investment, and another one on service industry, particularly accounting firms, their behavior, Chinese service provider globally. And then we have 2 specific looking at Chinese investment in Africa and a case study. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Professor Deng Ping, who is the first speaker. And he's the professor of global business and at the Cleveland State University in Ohio, United States. And his research interests on multinational corporations and outward direct investment, specifically with a focus on emerging market. And his impact articles appeared in international journals such as Business Horizons, International Journal of Management Reviews, and Journal of International Business Studies, and Journal of World Business. So his topic is merger and acquisition by Chinese multinational corporations in turbulent times. So Professor Deng, please, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I don't know whether you can open the share screen. Do you
Yes.
think I should use the share screen?
Yeah,
or
yeah, you can
open
share.
the share screen for me?
Yeah.
I opened it already.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for William and XIAOHUA invitation. So it's my pleasure to talk something about the current merge acquisition by Chinese multinational firms. So William, yes, okay, this is better. Thank you so much. So could you please go to the second slide for me? Yes. So first of all, I will just briefly review Chinese merge acquisition, particularly in advanced countries. As we know, in the past 30 years, China has been consistently top international acquirer around the world, largely because China is the world's largest emerging economy. And the merge acquisition, particularly of those strategic assets, crucially important for Chinese economy. As one of the biggest emerging economy, China does share a number of those characteristics of other emerging countries, but has many distinctions. One of the most important distinctions for the Chinese firm engaged in cross-border merge acquisition is Chinese firms are more likely to acquire strategic assets. Of course, those strategic assets include technology, management expertise, R&D facilities, human capitals, as I mainly summarize in some of my previous publications. So William, could you please go to the second slide for me? And also, the Chinese firms' acquisition of those strategic assets does have some distinct patterns. Sometimes we call as go out to bring in. What does that mean? That essentially means, according to a number of the leading scholars, particularly by Yadong Noor and Tan, they think the Chinese firms acquire those strategic assets abroad, particularly in advanced countries like US and advanced EU countries, mainly to save large, huge domestic markets, then use that as springboard, or sometimes we can also call stepping stone to build, enhance their global competitions. There are many reasons to explain this kind of the merge acquisition patterns. As early as later 2000, I have done a couple of those case studies, found out a number of those Chinese multinational firms, including BOE, Huawei, Lenovo, whatever. The most important reason for them to acquire strategic assets to meet going demand domestic market. Another important feature for the Chinese merge acquisition is the Chinese state and government play the crucially important role. To some extent, that is the single most important factor determining Chinese international acquisition and patterns. To some extent, most of those large-scale acquisition by Chinese firm is essentially driven by the Chinese government. And the Chinese government and a number of those government agencies not only play indirect role, but also play a number of the direct role by providing a number of those financial, non-financial support. So this kind of those support are widely regarded as Chinese government created advantage for Chinese firms. However, largely because of Chinese government heavily involved in Chinese merge acquisition in other countries, particularly in advanced countries, that simultaneously create disadvantage for Chinese multinational firms if they want to further expand in advanced countries, particularly by acquiring those firms with strategic assets. So now it's widely known the Chinese merge acquisition, particularly in advanced countries, not only motivated by economical factors, but maybe more related with non-economical factors, largely because of those non-economical motivations really provide a number of disadvantage or create a number of those gaps, sometimes particularly important for Chinese SOE, state-owned firms, largely because they're widely regarded or legitimately perceived they only serve as tool to save Chinese government. Yes, William, go to the next slides. So we can say largely because in the past 30 years, China is the most important, maybe one, at least one of the two most important drivers for the world economy, with China's economic rise and accompanied surge in geopolitical power that really challenge a number of those scholars in the Western world, they called free market model. Before, particularly before 2000, roughly about 2015, most of the scholar and government policy regard the relationship between China and Western world, particularly with the United States, is more on cooperation. But now it's widely regarded the relation is more, at least heavily move toward competition. Of course, the competition, not only economically, but socio-economically, geopoliticals. Or, William, could you please go to the previous slides for me for a second? So, largely because the so-called Chinese model, of course, whatever you can call a state capitalism, or the Chinese economic system, or the capital system with Chinese characteristics, they are largely regarded as incompatible or in heavy tension with Western models. So recently, a number of the influential scholars argue deglobalization, decoupling, largely with the Chinese emerge as one of the leading economy in the world by its own distinctive patterns, particularly featured with Made in China 2025 and BRI initiatives. So I believe in the future, if we start the Chinese international acquisition, and particularly their determines evolutions, we may have to pay much more political economical aspect and pay more attention to particularly the state-owned firms, what we call legitimate deficit whenever they do acquisition, merge, particularly in advanced countries. Then certainly will have dramatically negative impact upon future Chinese merge acquisition. Yeah, William, could you please go to the last slides for me? And also we know just now as the host, William and XIAOHUA show us, Yes, the Chinese outward FDI, mainly driven by merge acquisition, really peaked in 2016. But now, according to my most recent data, compared to the total outward FDI by Chinese firm in 2016, now already fall down by more than 60%. That going down rate, particularly evident in advanced countries, So largely because a number of those scholars, policymakers in advanced countries increasingly regard the Chinese outward FDI and merge acquisition in particularly from geopolitical perspective. Now there is a very popular term coming to being, it's called techno-nationalism, largely because it regards competition, business relationship between China and particularly United States from zero-sum game perspective. Maybe that perspective will not disappear shortly, even will get stronger. Particularly we know President Xi Jinping is most likely will have another 5-year term, and it's widely regarded by Western scholars, policymakers. Xi Jinping really favor state control, not only for the state-owned firm, but also want to heavily involve Chinese private firms, including those giants. Another important factor we have to consider about the long-lasting effect of COVID-19 pandemic. That really fueled populism, protectionism, nationalism, not only in China, but particularly in advanced countries. So from this perspective, I believe the Chinese firm want to continue its developing growth pattern. It has to adapt, reconfigure the global value chain, and admittedly, most likely will, in the next few years, at least, most of the Chinese merge acquisition will certainly go down much more in advanced countries. If there are some merge acquisition occur, most likely they will occur in the developing countries, particularly along those BRI initiative countries. So that may need dramatic change in the global economic pattern, more likely regional investment, less globalized investment. So that is my presentation. Thank you so much, William. Thank you, XIAOHUA. Thank you.
Thank you for Professor Deng for your wonderful broad picture on the issue, starting from not only from the China side, but also from the geopolitical side, specifically looking at the state-owned enterprises and the techno-nationalism effect. So I'm open up to the floor for audience to ask 1 or 2 questions. So we have 3 to 5 minutes, and so that Professor Deng can answer your question. Anybody have any question, you can write in the chat, or you can speak up your question. Thank you.
We can also, move it to the end.
For sure. Yeah, if we don't have any immediate question, I'm going to move to the next speaker. And our next speaker is Dr. BEATRICE MAISORI, and she is from the International Business and Strategy profession and based in Africa with the United States International University. And she has 20 years experience in international business and also as a practitioner, as a business executive and entrepreneurs in the African market. And her research in Chinese investment in Africa, obviously, and also in her growing global value chain. And I know she's a graduate from University of International Business and Economics with a PhD from China. That's actually pretty special. And thanks for the participation. And her topic is look at Chinese investment in Africa in these turbulent times and how DVC growth concepts fit into the whole macro economic condition. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Professor William Wei and Professor XIAOHUA. It's really my joy and pleasure to join everyone this afternoon. It's afternoon your time. It's late in the night, Kenyan time. I'm trying to move my slides. I'm not sure why I cannot. Yeah, so my name is Beatrice, as Professor William said. Coming in from Nairobi, Kenya. So I tell the story from the African perspective. I bring the story of China's engagement in Africa from an African perspective. So just like Professor Deng talked about, technology engagement of Chinese FDI in the developed countries, this is actually the same story we are increasingly seeing in the developing countries, because many times when people think about Chinese investment and engagement in Africa, the first thing that comes to mind is technology, right? And infrastructure, and sometimes maybe resource and engagement. But what people miss to see, even as we talk about the infrastructural connectivity that is happening around Africa and enabling us to be able to communicate with one another as the African countries, 54 African countries, there's not only one country in Africa. And in each of the countries, there is actually Chinese engagement in those countries. So what we are increasingly seeing is a network of, bridges, a network of highways, a network of, power installations. So at the end of the day, this is what is the picture we're seeing is really a picture of a connected Africa. And this is really the desired aspect, from the Africa's Agenda 2063. But behind that, what is actually really happening is growth of industries, and especially the construction industry has been, booming in these particular countries. So whether we're talking about building materials, whether we're talking about cement, we're talking about tiles, we're talking about steel, these are industries that are actually really emerging in the African continent. So besides the jobs that are being provided by the Chinese firms in the infrastructural projects that are going on, some of them that actually really came into being and completed during the COVID epidemic season, you actually really see quite a lot of emergence of other industries. There is still opportunity, as African Economic Outlook puts it. We still need close to 170 billion per year to be able to bridge the infrastructural gap in Africa. Besides the infrastructure, we also have what we call the financial inclusion or financial engagement of Chinese enterprises in Africa. So what we've seen in the recent years is a lot of cross-border interbank payment system integration, which really, at the end of the day, what this speaks to is that it's the ease of investment, it's the ease of trade, it's the ease of engagement of enterprises between China and Africa. Besides the financial inclusivity and the financial engagement, we've also seen quite a lot of engagement at the telecommunications level. So whereas there's been a call, to shun, some of the Chinese enterprises in some of the countries, especially the US, I think we've continued to see quite a lot of more deployment and use of Chinese technology, especially around the 5G, more so because of the ease, the speed, and the cost effectiveness of the solutions of what we see from China. The reality is that Africa really desires to ensure that as many of their people, their businesses and governments are really technologically integrated. So what China has provided is that solution really for the African continent. And some of the Chinese enterprises that are really leading in this area is Huawei, ZTE, Lenovo. We see quite a lot of this really being integrated and engaging a lot in the technology platform. The fintech has also not been left behind. So when we talk about financial inclusivity as well for the common person, and especially the mobile wallet, Kenya is very well known for the M-Pesa. So there's been quite a lot of integration, and speedy integration. You can actually really see M-Pesa integration with the Alipay. So it's very easy for people in Africa to trade with China with the ease of payment that comes with, but also deployment of mobile money platforms across so many networks in Africa, but also provision of a lot of banking solutions. So many banks across African countries are using Chinese platforms and solutions, whereas before would primarily look to maybe America or India. Now, besides financial inclusivity and the telecommunications, we've also seen quite a lot of speed and heightened engagement at the health sector, not to really underestimate the kind of support that we received from China during the COVID-19 epidemic, whether it was in terms of materials that were used, protective clothing, whether it was in terms of the vaccine that was provided through the COVAX Alliance, through the Chinese government, but also the Chinese farms that are working in Africa. Quite a number of them really went to put in kind of strategies that would actually really support the people that were heavily affected during the COVID. Of that to mention is one farm from Nigeria that really went ahead to be able to waive mobile transfer fees, but also to allow for direct cash handouts to customers affected by COVID-19. In this particular point in time, we also continued to see quite a lot of Chinese farms also start up in terms of manufacturing protective clothing and simple equipment in Africa. And whereas when most people think about use of Chinese mobile technology in Africa, they think about just the medical teams that have been around during the various epidemics we've had in Africa, but also the infrastructural building of hospitals and clinics. Increasingly, we really see more integration of technology in the health sector. And we really see increasingly more Chinese firms engaging not just in donations, but also trade in medical devices. It's not an anomaly to work in a hospital in Africa and to really find Chinese enterprises such as Mindray and United Imaging healthcare products being used in the hospitals, whereas primarily before maybe African hospitals would go for GA and Philips. Increasingly also there is telemedicine and digital healthcare where you can actually seek consultancy and support from China while you're in Africa, but also more of pharmaceutical industry growing in the African continent. We've also seen quite a lot of Chinese entrepreneurs who really grow the raw materials or the pharmaceutical active ingredients in the African continent. So I would say it is not just a story of infrastructure. It is not just a story of resource mining. There is quite a lot of use of Chinese technology in Africa, and there is also engagement in terms of the increasing of technologically based value chains, integration of Africa in technologically based value chains that connect to China as a country. Thank you very much for that opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation, and thanks for sharing all these interesting sectors. China right now are quite active in Africa, from medical technology to fintech to financial engagement, telecommunication, and obviously we all know infrastructure. So I'm going to move. We are going to have a Q&A at the very end, and I'm going to move to our third speaker, Professor Jingqi Zhu from University